The high commands from all over Daxia gathered at the main base of Jiangnan. Today was August 13th of the year 793, the era of job changers. This decoration ceremony was the largest in Daxia's history. For the people, it was incredible that Jiang Chen, being an awakened with 3 transformations, had fought against an 8th transformation monster and a 9th transformation opponent. They were happy because another talent had emerged in the war zone of Jiangnan. Hong Yao turned to Jai Gang and her eyes filled with curiosity. She asked if he really intended to leave his position as leader to go train in the caverns. Jai Gang extended his hand and explained that the superiors had already given him permission, so as soon as the decoration ceremony was over he was going straight to the caverns to begin training. Behind him were the other members of Night Watch. Chu Buling began pointing at himself with his thumb and with a determined expression revealed that not only would Jai Gang go but they would too. Duan Feng placed his hand on Chu Buling's shoulder and began observing Hong Yao in silence, while on the other side, Aunt Tang and Xiao Qi began showing a smile. Jai Gang's eyes widened in confusion, explaining that at first he had planned to go alone and did not expect them to also want to go with him. Realizing that Jiang had motivated everyone, he could feel that energy from the old days. Upon hearing this, Hong Yao extended her hand and couldn't help but smile. She admitted that the caverns were a place where all races converged, full of strange and powerful creatures. According to her, going there would surely transform them completely. Not far away sat Jiang Wushuang and Ying Zhan. Ying Zhan's attention was fixed on him and his eyes began to shine with seriousness. He was aware that training in Daxia would not allow him to surpass Jiang. He too was preparing to go into the caverns, so he asked what Jiang Wushuang had planned to become stronger. He suggested they go together since in the caverns killing foreign races granted rewards from heaven, being a perfect place for them. Jiang Wushuang crossed his arms, closed his eyes and nodded with a smile. Yin Zhang felt happy seeing that finally Jiang Wushuang was showing the spirit of his grandfather, reminding him not to forget they still had an unfinished fight pending. Duan Feng got on stage and with a serious gaze introduced himself as Commander-in-Chief of the Jiangnan War Zone. He decided to first give half an hour of empty speech in the style of a leader. The people asked him to stop talking nonsense and start with the speech. Some began to complain since they had calluses on their buttocks from sitting. Some masters could not wait any longer. Duan Feng started observing them and extended his hand to one side. At that moment a rift appeared on stage. A moment ago everyone was so serious that Duan Feng wanted to joke a little with them. He decided to skip the talk and go straight to the moment everyone had been waiting for, the decoration ceremony. He decided that it was time to invite one of the 3 warriors of 9 transformations from Daxia, Supreme Commander of the Night Watch and Commander-in-Chief of the Imperial Capital War Zone, the Great Dreamer, Huan Yu, revealing that she would be the one to decorate Jiang Chen and announce his title. The rift activated. Huan Yu grabbed another person's hand and while her eyes were shining with excitement, began to emerge from it. With a smile she asked Jiang Chen not to be shy since there was no sister going around defaming her own brother like that. Huan Yu and Jiang emerged from the rift and arrived on stage. She placed her hand on our boy's shoulder and with a cheerful smile asked if he was nervous. Jiang Chen, who wore the same outfit as the commanders of the war zones, began adjusting his wrist and with a confident smile said that he was not nervous. Jiang now wore a golden badge. Hong Yao's attention was fixed on our boy and her jaw dropped. She put her hand over her mouth and couldn't help blushing, since despite being Jiang's older sister, she was in shock at how handsome he was. Jai Gang crossed his arms and began to observe our boy with a serious gaze. Aunt Tang put her hand on her chin and couldn't help blushing as she had never seen someone as handsome as Jiang in her life. Duan Feng's jaw dropped in surprise, realizing that Jiang was dazzling this time. Mu Hankyu stood up from her seat and her eyes widened with love. Luo Sandao, who was behind her, couldn't help but smile, while on the other side Xiang Xuanyu put both hands over her mouth and started blushing upon seeing how handsome Jiang was. Xuanyu began to touch her cheek and with a curious gaze mentioned that those clothes looked very good on him. Our boy began to sweat and thought that she was teasing him again. Duan Feng thought it was time to begin and gave the order for everyone to shout Jiang Chen's title. Everyone put their hands near their mouths and started shouting demonic insect. Upon hearing this, Jiang's eyes widened in confusion. He couldn't believe that demonic insect was his title. According to him, they could have given him another slightly more decent title. He thought that dressing so well for the ceremony had been useless. Our boy and Yu went up on stage. Jiang put his hands behind his back and remained silent. She reached her hand toward the sky and following the will of the people. In the name of the Night Watch of Daxia and the armed forces of Daxia, she granted Jiang Chen from the Jiangnan War Zone the title of Lord of Heavenly Disasters. Jiang turned to her and with a cheerful expression said that he liked the title Lord of Heavenly Disasters more than Demonic Insect. In response, she stuck out her tongue and began to show a mocking smile. Jiang finally realized that she had gone through a lot just to play a prank on him. The screen began to show information about Jiang. Yu turned to Jai Gang and the others, and her eyes began to shine with seriousness, revealing that Jiang Chen was going to be specially granted the title of Guardian King of the Seas, and now the 4 maritime regions were going to be his fiefdom. He was also going to be granted the power to protect the country. He would not be limited to a war zone. He could freely travel throughout Daxia, with absolute authority over life and death. Upon seeing the kingdom's guardian, one should treat him as an equal in rank to the Invincibles. With a surprised expression, Chu Buling asked Jai Gang what the Great Dreamer had meant by that last phrase since he couldn't understand it well. Aunt Tang's eyes widened in surprise. With a serious gaze, Jai Gang said it was just as they had heard. Jiang was the kingdom's guardian. Everyone went into shock since our boy was only 18 years old and had already become the kingdom's guardian. It was as if he were breaking the rules of heaven. The attention of Zai Xuanyu's father was fixed on Jiang, and upon hearing that Jiang had received the title of Guardian King of the Seas, he quickly realized that the High Command was planning to re-establish contact with the 3 overseas islands. Upon learning that the 4 maritime regions were going to be Jiang's fiefdom, he noticed that the 3 overseas islands were now considered personal territory of Jiang Chen. He told old Gu Kaishan that his disciple was being put directly on the grill. With a serious gaze, he asked him if none of this mattered to him. The eyes of Gu Kaishan, who was sitting next to him, widened in tranquility. With a smile, he mentioned that he had no desire to worry about things that weren't worth it. The Great Dreamer opened a box that contained a golden badge. Jiang extended his hand, began to observe it, and with a smile prepared to receive the badge. Yu announced that the Great Era was about to begin and it was time to recover the 3 islands of the foreign land. Gu Kaishan thought that what others had not been able to achieve, perhaps his disciple could do. Yu explained to Jiang that the badge was the peerless decree, asking him to keep it safe. Our boy thanked her. At that moment, a ninja mounted on a powerful white tiger appeared. He introduced himself as Sashihara no Minamoto from the Sakura Kingdom. He came from Takamagahara by order of the great god Yamada no Orochi to congratulate Jiang Chen of Daxia with a challenge. Zai Xuanyu's father rested his arm on the sofa and his gaze fixed on Sashihara, realizing that he was a genius who was in the 3rd transformation but possessed the strength of a peak 5th transformation. He never thought that such a small country like Sakura had such promising talents. Duanfeng told Sashihara that the Great Dreamer was still on stage and it wasn't his turn yet. Yu's eyes began to shine with hatred. With a penetrating gaze, she decided to kill Sashihara for interrupting the ceremony. Just before she could do anything, Jiang put his hand in front of her, and while his eyes were shining with determination, he told his sister that there was no need for her to take care of that fly, since he was going to do it instead. Yu began to observe Sashihara, and with a confident gaze, she accepted since she wanted to see how powerful Jiang had become. Sashihara, who was mounted on his white tiger, descended to the stage. According to him, Jiang's actions made sense. His reason for challenging directly was because he knew that Daxia was a country that valued ceremony and respect. After all, if friends came from afar, they should be well received. Jiang began to stare at him, and while his body was releasing mist, he asked Sashihara to stop talking so much. He remembered that assassins should act in the shadows, so he asked what he was doing setting ambushes and also questioned who had sent him here to challenge openly. Jiang realized that this could only mean that Sashihara was just a sacrifice. Sashihara began to point at Jiang with his finger and with a confident gaze made it clear that one could only know if he was a sacrifice after fighting. He decided to get straight to the point and asked if Jiang dared not to use the 9 miasma wings. He also mocked Jiang, saying that if he didn't dare, he could say it clearly since he wasn't going to make fun of him. Jiang's attention focused on him and his eyes began to shine with excitement and thunder started to emerge from his body. With a smile, He made it clear that his attempt at provocation was somewhat clumsy, but then thought that this beautiful scene should not be ruined by the poisonous mist, so he promised not to use the 9 miasma wings. Jiang activated his domain of the god of thunder, causing a powerful barrier made of electricity to appear. Then, Jiang attacked using the skill called 3000 lightning bolts of judgment, causing thunder to strike Sashihara's body. His white tiger opened its mouth and began to roar in agony. Our boy mocked him by asking how he had dared to come here. A white tiger leapt and began to roar, and just then, Sashihara's body turned into shadow and disappeared. Jiang began to observe the shadow and realized that this was an illusion. With a killer gaze, Jiang activated the body of the divine elephant and delivered a powerful punch to the white tiger's jaw, breaking its teeth. The creature's body was sent flying to one side, and just then, the shadow began to gather in one place, and Jiang realized that this was also an illusion. At that moment, Sashihara appeared above Jiang and made it clear that he had lost. While his eyes were glowing, he revealed that what Jiang had hit before had only been an illusion created by his skill. He decided to warn our boy that his power was completely immune to electricity. It was specialized in destroying everything related to thunder. Upon hearing this, Jiang's attention focused on him and he couldn't help but go on alert. Sashihara attacked using the skill called Killer Thunder, but Jiang's body transformed into electricity, and he moved away from the area, dodging the attack and causing Sashihara's fist to strike the ground. Just then, Sashihara threw several daggers which made small cuts on Jiang's body. Our boy's eyes widened in surprise, leaving him in shock. Sashihara revealed that Jiang's thunder was not the fastest, since compared to an elite assassin like him, his speed was nothing. He thought that Jiang's previous victories had only been luck, and now that he had been poisoned, if he didn't have an antidote he was going to die. The eyes of Gu Kaishan and Huan Yu began to shine with hatred. They began to release their power. The great dreamer made it clear that Sashihara was looking for death. Just before they could interfere in the fight, Jiang asked them not to move because if it wasn't him who resolved this battle, all decorations would be annulled. Sashihara extended his hand and couldn't help but laugh, explaining that using the 9 miasma wings now was going to be a tremendous blow to Jiang's image. He asked if Jiang had planned to consume the blood of the ancient god and faint for a week or summon his demonic dragon and let the heaven destroy it. Jiang's body began to release red energy. He started observing Sashihara and with a smile thought this was the perfect opportunity to test a new technique against him. Sashihara drew his sword and went into shock upon seeing that the poison still hadn't affected Jiang. Our boy concentrated the energy in his hand and couldn't help but laugh, revealing that he was called the Poison Demon and there was no way such a weak poison could do anything to his body. Jiang's eyes began to shine with hatred. He used the technique called Spear of the God of Hell and his hand transformed into a spear. He attacked, but Sashihara blocked the attack and realized that this was a dark type ability. He didn't know if Jiang also possessed dark power. Little by little Jiang's spear began to break Sashihara's sword blade. His eyes filled with fear, and he thought it would be better to retreat. At that moment, energy began to envelop his body and he said goodbye to Jiang. Upon hearing this, the eyes of our boy began to shine with excitement. With a smile, he asked if he really believed he could escape. A rift appeared behind Sashihara and from it emerged Jiang's spear. Sashihara's attention was fixed on it and his eyes widened in confusion, and a question came to his mind. He did not know if that spear had a life of its own. Jumping, he began to flee, but in an instant, the spear began to stretch until it pierced through his chest, causing him terrible pain. Jiang pulled the spear out of Sashihara's chest, making his body fall to the ground. Jiang began walking back toward Huan Yu and with a confident gaze said that the fly had been eliminated and the ceremony could continue. This is the end of the video. If you guys want to see the next part, then don't forget to subscribe and like the video.